Good day, Minecraftians. Purple Mentat here, bringing you some more Crash Landing. And this time, I'm joined by a special guest. In voice chat with me, much like my little interview with Gideon, I have Iskandar, the pack creator. Say hi.
Hi there.
So, I'm going to be trying to get a better automated resource processing chain together this time. As you can see, I got myself well stocked with water before I got started. Plenty of food is somewhere. I think I've left it in another Soren chest. There we go. Cantaloupe, some stock, some rice, in a good spot. Alright, so Iskandar, tell us exactly, and I know that you've answered this already in the pack description and on the FTB forums, but for people that have somehow not seen it there, why don't you tell the folks at home what it is exactly that inspired you to do this kind of pack where water becomes one of the primary driving concerns and never really stops being an issue?
Well, I played a lot of Agrarian Skies when it, got the HQM mod. It really got me thinking. Well, I was expecting a lot of HQM packs to come out, and they didn't. So I got thinking maybe I could make my own pack, since there seemed to be a lack of them at that time. And I want to do something different. Because a lot of the survival-based packs really focus on food. The problem is, no matter how hard you try, food will always become trivial shortly after early game. It's impossible. So I got thinking, what else could I do to make things, to actually add a survival challenge? And that got me thinking that, when you're surviving, you need both food and water. And that's something that's never really addressed. And it got me thinking, could I make water a scarce resource? Given that Minecraft really treats it as an infinite thing that no one really ever thinks about.
Yeah, I think the only other real mod, or well, I guess you could call it mod pack, but the only mod I've ever seen other than Enviromine that made water a really big deal that was widespread was Better Than Wolves, where infinite water is disabled and you have to kind of channel things around and build at real serious levels of aquaculture engineering, or whatever you call it, to be able to get your flowing water into the areas that you need it, because that's a very important source of power in that mod. So to see it become a major survival thing as opposed to like a automation source was very interesting.
And a pain in the butt, let me tell you. Minecraft really was not designed to do what I'm doing with it. At first, it took 2 or 3 alpha versions to really get the thing settled out. Luckily, the Code Chicken core that NEI uses has an option to turn off infinite water. That was the very first start. And of course, I found Enviromine, which was the other really big piece of the puzzle. And then I found, that the biggest problem I had was that some of the Minecraft mechanics make what I'm doing nearly impossible. Most notably is the fact that filling a bottle with water doesn't deplete the water source. And that was where Enviromine actually really did help me out. Because by putting the thing in an ocean biome, all of a sudden water is now salt, and that
okay.
Yeah, and that was the very first big one.
So the first step was making it so that you were not able to get infinite water in anyway, even by, cheaty workarounds. Now, I know that there's some other ways that Enviromine kind of suggests you can use, which I haven't gone over in-game yet, to kind of try to create a potable water source that won't deplete, or at least won't deplete quickly. And I believe you went through and edited a bunch of those out as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, for a while I actually had cauldrons enabled, which would allow you to pretty much Well, it's not quite infinite water, but you could, with a little work, you could keep doubling your water, and you know. And I eventually decided that was a bit too much, and I eventually disabled that.
Right, so you can't even craft a cauldron anymore.
Yeah, it's been a while, but there's a mechanic where you could dump water into it, and basically you would get one water bottle into it to get two back.
Okay.
Yeah, and that got to be a bit, let's not do that.
Here I am, at the moment, tearing apart the spaceship and the broken fuel pod to make myself more room for my plans for today. So, this is a little bit fun. I hope that I'm not going to run into a quest later on that's like a, you must have this structure built quest. I know the HQM people were working on one of those. I don't know if it's in yet or if it's part of your pack. But if I have to reassemble the spaceship as one of the late quests, then I'm going to be a little sad that I'm currently tearing it to pieces.
No, as of yet. See, that's another thing that made my pack a lot possible, is I supported the HQM's patron, and you know, got the patron beta about the same time that did do the location quest and a few other things, and right where I was starting to write my quest, and that was actually a really, really big help. And oddly enough, also the patron reward of the Agrarian Skies server helped as well, because I got to sit there and talk to VSWE about the other problem I had, because the problem was, by putting in an ocean biome, yeah, I got rid of the ability to fill infinite bottles of water, but it also rained.
Yeah. And I noticed that you and him had a bit of a back and forth, and now there's a custom mod in the pack that its only purpose is end rain. And he said it was like the shortest mod he's ever written. It was only a few lines of code, correct?
Yeah, there's actually more imports in that thing than there are lines of code.
Yeah. Which is hilarious. Just, nope, no rain anywhere.
But no, I got to talk to him and explain it, because I had to do some heavy mind tweakering to remove a few things. Because you know, at first I didn't mind the rain too much, but I set things up so I could watch Stream and YouTube, and people were just making like 100 wooden barrels for rainwater, and it was like, no, let's not do that.
Yeah, that kind of goes against the spirit of the pack.
So I had,
but not many people I've found really play packs with a mind towards their spirit. It's more along the lines of, how many ways can I break this?
Yeah, and I don't mind if you break my pack in some ways, but you know, again, so I did some things, and you know, I wasn't really happy with that, to disable wooden barrels and make stone barrels harder to get. And I wasn't really happy with it, and I was sitting on a Grand Sky server, and I was talking to him, and he was like, well, let's see how easy I can do to make it remove rain, and it will turn out to be extremely simple. So
now, a fun little side effect of that is you still get thunderstorms that happen and cause the light diminishing and the clouds in the sky and everything, so you have mobs spawning during the day without a whole lot of warning that they're going to. So it kind of ramps up the entire threat factor. You never really feel quite safe when you're out in the open, because mobs could start spawning all around you at any time. I'm not really certain if that's intended or not, but I've been meaning to ask you since the last time I got caught out in the open in the middle of a thunderstorm where it didn't rain.
Oh, it's not really intended, but it's a happy little accident that I don't mind having. And and since the ruins mod can allow me to create ruins with, say, command blocks, I can potentially make ruins where you get close enough to them, and all of a sudden it starts a thunderstorm.
I dislike this greatly. Why would you do this? Do not do this. You hear that? He has more evilness planned. Do not trust the ruins. They are not your friends. It's nighttime. I'm just going to sleep through the night so I can avoid all of the noises from the monsters. Alright. So, speaking of the ruins, the new city you have is rather threatening. And I know that you have some balance changes coming to it in the next update, but it's just punishing going in there. I mean, you have to get there to get your first smeltery, and I believe that you're looking to make it as mandatory as possible that you have to go exploring to get that first smelter. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's a balance change, and 1.1.3 is taking longer than I wanted. But things are going to change both for better and for worse. I'm removing some of the more pain in the butt monsters. Like pigmen vampires are going away.
Right, but pigmen at all will still exist, and those things hit hard. So.
Well, yeah, but I have to check the exact numbers, but I think there's only like a 10% chance for those spawners to be pigmen. So.
Oh, okay. So there's at least a chance that you can go to the city and get your first smeltery components without having a ton of pigmen show up. That's something.
Yeah, and you really particularly only need, your first smeltery. With a bit of work, you can then make as much seared bricks from that scorched bricks as you need. So.
Yep, and that's actually, I'm doing something very similar to that, as I have basically everything that I need at the moment, and I'm planning to expand my smeltery and my high oven from my first run into the city and not go back to the city until I absolutely have to for progression purposes, or I'm very well armed and armored, because forget that. It's dangerous.
Yeah, exploration really wasn't, a goal of the pack at first. That kind of evolved on me. The thing is, when I made that pack at first, when I started realizing I want to make water a scarce resource, I had to figure out a reason why water would be scarce. And that's where the dust planet came from. And then once I realized that to get to the end game, you guys would need to go out and find stuff out in the wasteland. It was like, well, it's kind of boring just to have all that flat dust out there, and what's the point? So
I see. So the entire gameplay where things are so hard to get your hands on, and you do have to go out and exploring, all of that's emergent from the theme. That was never the original intent. It's just kind of progressed to that.
Yeah, the more as I developed that thing, the more I designed this pack to try to break the habitual way of doing things. A lot of the things. That's why there's no lava power, for instance, because everybody, and I mean everybody I've ever seen make a YouTube Minecraft, the first thing they do is either infinite lava from the nether, or if it's from agrarian skies, they have infinite crucibles making infinite lava, and that's just no, stop.
Yeah, I have the same issue with lava being too overused as a resource. It bothers me, but I can't force people to play anyway but the way they want to.
Yeah, and I've been, I try not to, force people to play the way but I am trying to force them to think of different ways of doing things. And it works to some degree or not. A lot of the changes I made, I'm tying things into a pretzel as it is.
A bit.
Because, again, Minecraft was never meant to do what I'm doing with it in terms of the water. And it mostly works. I found some odd little glitches. Like, for instance, the reason why sprinklers are no longer a thing is because they counted as water source blocks.
Yep.
Which I didn't see coming.
It lets you... They can hydrate an entire field. Now, what use of them as water source blocks ended up messing with your pack so badly?
Oh, you could right-click them with a bottle and fill the bottle with them.
I guess that, kind of makes sense, but it seems like it'd be a very messy way to fill a bottle.
So, yeah, they actually count as a water source block. The problem is, they don't count as a water source block in any other way. They don't count as a water source block, so they're not salt, for instance.
Oh, so there's no way for you to force it into, the balance point that you want.
Yeah, so they had to go away, and that's one of the things I wish I could change, but, I've made a lot of changes that I really wish I didn't have to do. Like aqueous accumulators. I like the concept of them, the slow trickle of water, acting as condensers. But the problem was there was no way, and there's still no way, of turning on the fact that, you place down a couple of water source blocks to them, all of a sudden you get massive amounts of water. If I could turn that off, aqueous accumulators would still be a thing.
Okay, I see. Yeah, and short of making the pull request yourself, you're not going to be able to get that particular change in.
Yeah, things will get easier with 1.7.10 when and if I port the pack over. Enviromine will let me set the biomes myself, so Steve's drop won't be necessary, and there's a few other things that'll make my life a whole lot easier.
Okay. Have you been in contact with the Enviromine developer at all?
Somewhat. I know this is mostly what I'm pulling from his forum thread, though, the changes he's going to be making, so it's going to be a lot more configurable. The biggest thing, though, is that any attempts, both me and a lot of people asking, is that, camel packs are just the way they are. He's not open to, modifying them in any way, so.
Ah, okay. It is what it is. Deal with it.
People keep asking me, and I keep having to say, it's not me, go talk to him. He's the one, and he keeps saying no, so.
So what is it about camel packs that people want different?
They either want some way to so they can refill from like your hot bar, or if they could be made larger, or stuff like that. And
well, I mean, there's ways around that if you're clever, though. I believe that Landstrider has a particularly good setup for that in his YouTube series on your pack.
So, Steve's Factory Manager can actually pull from your inventory.
It's exactly what he's doing. So, yeah. I don't know. It doesn't seem like that's an insurmountable thing. That seems like we're used to Minecraft being more convenient and easier than this. But there's, it's water will always be a slight annoyance no matter what you do. So I started with water as the starting point, and things really have evolved from there. I got into PneumaticCraft back when it first started getting popular, and it was like, I started looking at ways to tie everything together, and I found MFR had the logic cards, which weren't really being used for anything, and from there it was very simple to link them into the machine frames, and also link those into the PCBs and tie all the tech tree together, which is a happy little accident that Well, it's made quite the frustrating gate when you're trying to get started, where you have to have a particular setup before you can really do much else. So. Which, I mean, that's a good thing in one way, but on the other hand, it's also really, really frustrating when you just want to, for example, make a pulverizer. Yeah, luckily, once you get enough into PneumaticCraft to build an assembly line, it takes about 5 seconds to make those PCBs, so you can move past that with a little bit of work. Right. It's just the getting that work done. Yeah, I've tried making sure that any problem I set before you can be gotten past if you're willing to think a little bit. And it's kind of surprising how many people are not willing to actually think, which is, kind of disappointing, but... Oh, I definitely agree with that. I'm just saying that it's not a bad thing to be frustrated by this pack, is all I'm trying to say. If your pack is forcing people to really think outside of the box, then there are going to be people that are frustrated because they're not going to be used to that. What they're used to is I copy all of my favorite builds from my favorite YouTuber or Twitch player, and everything is easy. But you don't have those easy answers. You've intentionally gone out of your way to remove as many of them as possible. Yeah, I watch a lot of Direwolf 20, and I know the common approaches to everything, and I've very specifically disabled quite a few of them. Of Direwolf 20's approaches in particular, huh? No wonder he and Pymar had such a hard time when they got started on your pack. Yeah. I mean, a lot of the ways that, again, lava power is disabled, a lot of the early tech is harder to get. Growing wheat for early easy food is gone. So are melons for the exact same reason. Well, you have rice that you give out in its place. I guess I don't see making rice soup to be that much harder than bread, but
it really isn't. But then again, most people when they go to make food, they get bread or maybe toast, and that's about as far as they ever go into the fact that Pam's HarvestCraft has like a couple hundred different food types.
Yeah.
And again, it goes with trying to make people think. So by disabling melons, disabling wheat, you have to think of other,
different ways around that. So you said that exploration didn't start as a primary purpose of the pack, but it's becoming more and more important. Are there other big plans you want to share?
The end game, the end game buildings are already there. They don't do anything yet.
Okay.
But you can get there if you're willing to go like 6,000 or 7,000 kilometers away from home base.
That's a ways.
Yeah, once I realized that the only way I can bring this pack to a close was, have people go out and find stuff. Yeah, I realized then that just having them walk across a blank, flat map was going to be boring.
So then the city that is in is not going to be the only feature?
There'll be lone building coming. The cities are getting more diversified. I've buried all of them. The ability to loot the buildings from outside is going away because of that.
Darn it. That's like, I relied on that.
Yes, I know, and so did everybody else, and that really wasn't intended.
Well, I mean, I had to dive into a few of them, but I definitely got most of my things a lot safer by the fact that I didn't have to do an extensive amount of digging or start at the top where you have nasty things like Enderman spawners.
Yeah, there is there'll be, as I said, there'll be lone buildings out there. The cities will be diversified. There'll be residential, industrial, and commercial cities. They'll be smaller and more numerous than they are now.
Well, that's exciting. Multiple different types of cities.
Yeah, residential will feature mostly high-rises and apartments, with the occasional Tinker's Construct factory because they kind of have to be there. Industrial will be, of course, the factories and the reactor buildings and some apartments and government buildings, and the commerce will be all the offices and stuff like that. So,
okay.
Yeah, I could not. I first got into making this phase. When I first found is basically by chance finding 4War's City Ruins mod that actually I couldn't be doing any of this if one of the forum members hadn't stepped up and started making buildings for me.
And he's the person who's I assume has been messaging me fairly regularly about the pack on my Twitter. Showed up on a few live streams of mine. I don't have his name in front of me. Yes, that's it.
Yeah, he's the one. He's I've had while a lot of it has been my work, I've had a lot of secondary help from people. Domacheski is the one who's done all the art assets for everywhere I've done. He's also the one who's built one of the endgame buildings. Dayo rebuilt the shuttle for me, and I can't thank him enough for that.
Oh, okay.
As well as the other endgame building.
That's cool. I did not know this. I did not realize that this shuttle that I am tearing apart and reconfiguring was the work of someone with a bit of fame attached to him. Well,
yeah,
more than at least more fame than the amount that you are slowly aggregating around yourself.
Yeah, that was kind of unexpected. When Direwolf decided to pick up my pack, it was like, eek.
Yeah, having spoken with him briefly, I know exactly what you mean. Okay.
Yeah, all of a sudden my pack got exposed to like 100,000 people. That was like, crud.
Uh-huh. Hope it was ready.
Well, mostly. That's the problem, though. With 1.1.2 being such a huge change, the balance was still way out.
Fair.
It's which is the way it's always been. It took a few alphas before I got the current balance. You know, the 1-1-1 balance the way it was. As it took, I think it was 104 or 105 before the pack really started coming together. And I think 108 was probably the best balance I had for a while.
Okay. Just not quite happy with where things are at right now. You said you're making some changes. I believe I remember you mentioning, there's a couple of changes I know you handed me to play within the configs, and I'm sure you've done the same for some other personalities out there.
Yeah, map resets really shouldn't be a thing, thankfully, but yes. I'll be toting some mobs down. Mob briefing is going away, which I probably should have done from the beginning.
Well, you had that originally, and then the mod that was, well, at least you had anti-creeper griefing, so that other, like, ghasts and endermen would still be able to do stuff. And then the mod that you were relying on to do that updated and took that feature out, correct?
Well, it's Code Chicken Core that actually is turning off creeper griefing. The problem is it doesn't recognize the special mobs creepers as creepers. So,
I see. That's a problem.
Yeah, and the old version of special mobs had a way to disable creeper griefing, and the new one does not yet. I have to check and see if that's updated.
That's the part that I was thinking, was that there was a way to disable creeper griefing in the mod that was creating the creepers, and then that it's gone now.
I will be changing salvaging a bit. Most of the high oven stuff and some of the smeltery stuff will be considered crumbling, and you'll have to take a hammer to it to break it back down into into bricks and grout.
An ex nihilo hammer?
Yep.
Interesting. So that's going to be a good reason to actually carry one around on a world that's made of the material you usually hammer things down into.
Yeah, you can still pick them up with a pickaxe, but they won't be counted as smeltery parts. I'll be using the Rock Digger mod, which allows you to create your own custom blocks to,
And that's from Lord Dusk, correct?
Yeah. And Cyanide X is helping me with textures for both that and maybe the shuttle textures as well. There's some things I would like to do with the shuttle that I currently can't with the textures I have available.
Sounds like this is becoming more and more a community project.
Yeah, it always was, honestly. And again, I couldn't have done any of this without Agrarian Skies. I took apart the Agrarian Skies config from one end to the other to figure out how she did it and learn how to make the changes I had to make myself. This thing would not have been possible without, Jaded Cat and her.
Nice. She seems to have been quite the inspiration. I mean, the whole jam-packed competition, I believe, sprung up around the fact that Agrarian Skies is quite as intense as it is, and it's changed the way a lot of people look at Minecraft. Or at least the way a lot of the mod scene looks at Minecraft.
Yeah, it really was, HQM. There really is, there's a reason why I'm supporting them through their Patreon, because, this mod pack literally cannot exist without HQM. So,
yeah. All right. For those wondering what I'm doing in game, I'm currently assembling the pieces of the Steve's Factory Manager that I'm going to be using to create my ore processing system. So, just so you know what's going on.
Yeah, basically, approached me with the hey, I figured a way to make Steve Factory Manager do the whole automated sifting thing. Is this an exploit or is this intended? And it was like, that has to be the most awesome thing I've ever seen. Yeah, go ahead and spread that around.
Yeah, it seems pretty good. And I'm going to be starting, I looked up his tutorials, and I'm going to be sharing those in the link below once I get to a chance to actually speak about the build that I'm doing. But I'm also modifying it past what he showed in the tutorial into a full-fledged, complete package that will process the materials and stack them into a sorting system or get them smelted.
Yeah, that's another reason why Steve's Factory Manager is in my pack. It is such a great thing, and it deserves to be more well known than it is.
I think that a lot of people have some balance concerns. I mean, the thing I've made so far is ridiculously cheap for as powerful as it is, especially with the auto-crafting. Auto-crafting is something that's usually relatively expensive and hard to come by in Minecraft. And in Steve's Factory Manager, it is relatively cheap and easy to get. You basically have a full-fledged, as fast as you can make it happen, auto-crafting system with barely anything more than I already have in my inventory. Pretty intense.
Yeah. I may end up adding a machine frame or something to the actual, heart of that thing. But mostly, given the amount of programming you have to do in the thing to get to work.
Yeah, that's the other side of it. That there's going to be this episode of, here I am assembling everything, and probably the entire next episode is going to be, and here's how you make it actually work.
Yeah, the programming is almost strictly digital logic.
Yep.
But sometimes the things, it can be a little finicky to get working too. The auto crafting especially can be a lot finicky.
Yep. It's part of why this particular episode is coming out a little bit late. It's taken me quite a while to wrap my head around the exact ways that I need to use Steve's Factory Manager. I haven't had as much time invested into figuring out a single mod since I tried to build a very efficient big reactor.
Yeah, and that's one reason why I haven't been that concerned about the material costs, because it also takes a lot of creativity to get anything out of
Yeah, and despite the fact that I'm going to be showing all of the programming, what I like about Steve's Factory Manager is you can't copy this build that I'm going to be doing without basically learning the mod, because it's going to end up being a step-by-step tutorial on how it all works. There we go.
Yeah, so it's pretty much self-balancing in my opinion. That's why I haven't been that concerned.
Yep.
I might go ahead and make the inventory, the heart of it, but then again, I might not.
Okay.
Some things.
Go on.
Some things do need to go away. I forgot to disable diamond dollies, for instance.
Yeah, that's an important one. You definitely don't want people to be able to go out there and grab... Oh, hang on, I've got a spider issue going on here. Right around this little open block of lava. You know what, guys? Before we go any further, let's put a little bit of cobblestone slab over that lava so a spider doesn't knock me into it. That would just make my day.
Yeah, that's something else I'm going to be doing as well. Is I need to go way back in like 1.3 or 1.04. I changed a lot of the environment. Lets you set the temperature you get off of armors. And I changed a lot of them, but somewhere along the line, those configs have been lost, as been recently brought to my attention. So I need to go ahead and redo those.
What? Sorry, there's a baby ghast, and it's carrying a creeper on its head. What is this?
Ah, yes, mini ghast.
I'm okay with the ghast, but why is it bringing me a creeper? I mean... Any longtime fan will know that I have an issue with flying explosives already. One of my early Agrarian Skies episodes, I opened a safari net, and there was a bat with a lit piece of dynamite on its head. And it was only sheer serendipity that I did not end up blowing up my bed and falling down the hole.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
Alright, anyway, sorry. Flying explosives aside, you were telling us about you're going to be re-adding all of the heat values to the armor, correct?
Yeah, and basically, my biggest thing is that Enviromine does work reasonably well. Just some things don't work the way you expect them to, and it's taken me a while to really learn some of the changes.
Is it a case of things keep changing on you?
Well, it's not that so much. Well, it's like the armor. If you add heat value to an armor, it'll add. Let's say you add it's going to add. Well, no, actually, this is more like if you carry something in your inventory that adds heat, like lava, it adds 100 heat to you. What it does, it adds 100 heat to the outside temperature, which is 65, and then divides that in two. So either way, after 100 heat, you still only end up with like 82.5 because of the way that works. But anything you hold that removes heat, just straight out removes the same amount of heat.
Okay.
So, and that took me a while to wrap my head around.
Yeah, that sounds a little counterintuitive. Like it'd be an issue.
And there are minimums. It won't ever drop the heat below about 5 degrees. This is all Celsius. It can work in Fahrenheit too, but the numbers get kind of weird.
Right. Well, I mean, Celsius is the metric of temperature, isn't it? And there's like 3 countries in the world that don't use metric.
Yeah. Luckily, even though the armor seemed to have gone away, I have to make sure my block changes have stuck. I think they have, because machines will heat you up, and as will your smeltery and your hiving too, as I'm sure you've noticed.
Unfortunately. It's like I'm sweating an awful lot more than usual and burning through a lot of water standing next to this thing. Oh, right, it's an oven. I guess that makes a certain level of sense. I don't have to like it.
Yeah, I did my best to yeah. If you think it would be hot, it probably is hot. You should not be sitting next to it. This includes lava, most machines, and fire.
Yeah, I was looking through the configs at some of the machines that you added a lava level heat value to, and was kind of surprised, like, to find that most of the thermal expansion in MineFactory Reloaded machines are actually going to add a significant amount of heat if they are active when you're near them. Or is that if they even exist in the world at all? I'm not 100% certain.
Unfortunately, it's if they exist. Unfortunately, I can't change heat based on whether they're working. It's if they exist.
Well, I guess there's not really a lot of chance for machines to vent heat in this environment anyway. Not when it's getting this hot during the day. Now, what do the temperatures end up capping out at during the day?
It is, let's see, what is it? It's 65 Celsius during the day.
Yikes. Yeah. For those stuck in the non-metric part of the world, that is 149 degrees Fahrenheit in direct sunlight. And it's only about 5 degrees cooler in the shade?
Yeah, something like that, yes.
Which would mean that it is 140 in the shade on this planet, folks. That is why you're going through so much water so quickly. The fact that you can still keep yourself alive at all in those conditions is actually pretty impressive.
And it drops down to, I think it's like 25 or so at night, so.
Yeah. Practically 25 Celsius?
Yeah, these numbers are all Celsius. So.
Oh, okay, so that's actually nice and cool and pleasant at night. It gets down to about 80 Fahrenheit in the evening.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is you should also watch out for wearing metal armor, because each piece of metal armor you wear will put you up about 20 degrees Celsius. So you're wearing a full suit of metal armor, you're setting 105 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, so you're literally boiling in your armor, folks. Be a little careful.
I'll be changing PneumaticCraft's helmet to actually act as air conditioning, because it is, after all, pressurized. So
interesting. Are you going to make that more potent than the diamond armor in terms of cooling you?
I think so. It's either more potent than or equal to.
Okay. It would be interesting to see the, powered system that is pressurized and you have to keep recharging as the more potent of the two. I would like that. But that's also
think it is. I think I said it at 0.8, whereas a diamond is 0.9.
Okay.
As in it actually subtracts 20% from the surrounding heat.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. That'll keep you nice and cool. You'll go through a lot less water that way, keeping your temperature down.
Yeah, let me check something.
Okay. Well, while he's checking something, let me tell you guys what I have been working on while he's been talking to us. I extracted the rest of my gold, got myself a bunch of wood together, and I've been slowly harvesting my food as I'm running around, you know, to keep myself alive. Never want to stop that. And I built myself all of the base components for Steve's Factory Manager so that I could set up a redonkulous sieving system. This is going to be faster resource gen from Nihilo than I've ever used before. And you'll see how as I get it all set up. So what I have down here is a redstone emitter, a redstone receiver on the underneath, a inventory manager right in the middle, some inventory cable along the sides, 3 block gates, each one facing a sieve, and a rapid item valve on top. And this should be everything that I need to get started with the sieving side of things. And as I progress, I will be adding on to this system more and more automation to actually store all of the items, as well as automatically craft all of the components into their ore form and condense, for example, coal and redstone into block form so I can store more in the same barrel. I'm going to end up with a little wall of barrels over here that's going to be most of my resources. And eventually this inventory cable will extend all the way over into my high oven, and it will smelt all of my metals into ingots, into blocks, and store the blocks into the barrels for me as well. And this is all going to be one unified system. No applied energistics needed. It will accomplish all of this for me. Let me go over what you need to do to get the inventory manager set up just to do the sieving. Now, there's only one inventory one inventory as we think of it attached to it at the moment, which will be very useful. So this is a very complicated device, and down below in the doobly-doo, you will have linked VSWE's YouTube channel with his Steve's Factory Manager tutorials. What you need for this particular setup, the way that I'm going to be running it, you want a trigger. This trigger is going to be set to redstone controlled underneath connections. And under redstone controlled, you want to select the redstone receiver. You want to keep an eye out because you can't see your mini-map or anything around you while you're working on the Steve's Factory Manager. And once you have your trigger set up, let me double check this. Redstone, receiver, interval. You don't need to touch this. Oh, hello. Ow. I need to eat some food so that I can heal. Let me go grab myself some soup. Yes, we'll grab some rice soup and a bit of tea, because tea gives the well-fed buff. Which, well, extends the well-fed buff from the soup. I had someone try to tell me that well-fed only stops you from losing hunger. It does help stop you from losing hunger, but it also causes you to regen a little bit faster. For example, you'll note that I gained that last half a heart without losing my last half a pork chop worth of saturation. Okay, got my dust in my chest. Trigger is set to redstone receiver. Interval can be ignored. Sides, if any. Analog. Select the strength range required for... You want to... Yep, that's all set up properly. From the trigger, you're going to take a... where is it? Flow control. And you're going to have this set to collector, 2 inputs. You're going to go on high pulse and on low pulse. So it will trigger once when the redstone hits the high point and once when the redstone hits the low point. And that's all you need to do with the flow control. Now you're going to take your redstone emitter. Oh, they're spawning on the flow control. You end up with an extra command for any reason. You can drop it right here to delete a command. On the redstone emitter, you're going to select the one emitter that there is, and you're going to tell it to output redstone strength 15, pulse, do emit pulse, for, well, you can do 0 seconds and 10 ticks, and that'll be just fine. So it'll pulse for half a second. And now, with just that setup, if I turn this lever on, hang on, I did something wrong. What did I do wrong? Let me double check this and I will be right back. And I'm back. Let me show you what I did wrong. So I remembered this entirely differently than what it's supposed to be. You do need sides, weak power, and you want the output to be toggle, and turn off the do emit pulse. Oops, hang on. Let me hit save on that. And now, as you can see, it is toggling between high and low very, very rapidly, which means that as long as it is toggling, every time it toggles, there is another pulse going down this line. To get this line to actually do anything, we're going to need an input and an output. But before I go any further, I actually want to change things a bit. I want to create a command group, because these are the really awesome part of Steve's Factory Manager that lets you keep everything neat and clean. And this command group is I'm going to name, well, we'll call it initialization. We'll save that. And in the command group, we will drag the trigger, the flow, and the emitter. And then I can click right here and go inside of that command group. And I can reassemble this little path line. It will have remembered all of these options that I picked. For example, if I go to the trigger, it'll still see that it's on that redstone receiver. And if I go to the emitter, it will see that it's still on toggle. So none of that has changed. And then from here, I can add a group node. And this group node, if I set it to output node, when I connect a line from this emitter to that node, when I go back up, closing the group, I can now see that there is a line coming off the bottom of the group. And that line will connect just as if I had connected to that emitter. It's exactly the same. These command groups are just a way to compact things and keep your build nice and clean. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to input, and actually I don't want to just input. What I want to do is I want to create a couple of variables to make my life easier. One variable that I want to create, and the variables can be done right there, the V. Create container variable. We're going to stick these in the upper right corner. And the variable is going to be named dust input. And we'll leave that on white, because that's useful to me. And I will look at the containers available, and I will select the gold chest, because that's the only dust input for now. But later on, I can select more, or I can change it around, and all I need to do is edit it in here without needing to edit anywhere that I use this variable. All of those will get changed automatically. If I could click the save, there we go. And I'm going to want one more variable. And this I'm going to set to yellow. Assuming I can find yellow. Lime, yellow. And this is going to be the block gates. And this variable will be named dust output. Save that. Shrink that down. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have input from show all variables, dust input, link the initialization to the input. You get a big ol' exclamation point telling you the whitelist is empty. Well, you can either change the whitelist to have dust in it, or you can just set it to blacklist, and it'll pull anything out of that chest, and then you just make sure you only ever dump dust in there. We're not going to do it that way because I'm not setting up for multiple inventories at the moment. It's just going to be the dust. And now I'm going to link this to the output. This is telling you that it has no inventory selected. You're going to want to set this inventory to variable dust output. And it will automatically target to up for output and to down for input if you go into your user preferences and tell it to do those. Automatically select one side for inputs, outputs, and conditions. That is a very useful thing to have, so you don't have to define which side you want it to grab from every single time you use it. Hang on, I'm out of water again. Almost out of water entirely. That's okay. We are running way over on this episode anyway, and we'll be wrapping up briefly. Here we go. And this, on its own, as it is right now, will cause the block gates to fire every time they get this command. So, if I turn this on, hang on. Something's fishy here. I have forgotten a step. Let me check that and I'll be right back. Alright, so yeah, I did it again. I forgot to set whitelist dust into the variable dust output. There we go. And now I check the dust output variable and make certain that it is on. There we go, dust output. So now, the only other thing that I can think to check, make sure that things are in fact pointing this way. And they are. So, this should... Oh. I derped again. Hang on. We'll move the wall at the moment. It'll actually be easier for the time being. I'll move everything else some other time. Actually, I might end up just extending the wall one more block this way, as that seems like it might be easier in the long run than attempting to rebuild this entire factory manager somewhere else. So, one key facet of this entire build, you can't have the sieves directly next to the block gate. You need one space in between. Now, the block gates will attempt to right-click the sieve with the block that's in them, because that's how you place a block. You right-click, which will cause the dust to go into the oak sieve. And then the rapid item valve will end up picking up any of the dust, because we're going to define another input from the rapid item valve. And this is going to be blacklist nothing, so everything will go in. And then we'll have a final output for the moment, which will get edited at a later date to be something more useful. We're going to connect our input to our output, and then we're going to right-click this output and drag a node so that we can get a nice clean line and easily see where things go. And this will go into the gold chest, and will again blacklist nothing. So at the end of everything that comes out of this system will get picked up by the rapid item valve. It will happen just about instantly when it's turned on, and get dumped into the gold chest. So if I turn this on, you should see, yep, things are going into the sieve. You can see items popping out of the sieve. There's not enough dust in the system to actually use all 3 sieves at the moment. And if I take a look at the gold chest, you can see how much stuff is getting processed just that quickly. Alright, so there is our super speed auto siever. And anything that gets dropped in the area will get grabbed by the rapid item valve and tossed into this chest. We're definitely going to be making use of that trick more and more as time wears on. Turn it off, just hit the lever again. And this is basically a direct copy of the Visui's basic build. You can't really stop it in the middle or you'll end up with dust on the ground. So just let it run all the dust through. There's not really much reason not to. There we go. Alright. I think that's going to be about all of the time that we have for today. Now, Iskandar, you went off to check one thing before I was explaining how you do all the programming on this basic bit here.
Yeah, a couple corrections. For one, night is 7 degrees C, not 45. Another thing is I'll also be changing the camel pack. So it'll be like a 5% reduction in heat during the day and a 5% increase in heat during the night. Just to give it a little bit of a buff there.
Oh, okay. So the camel pack will be a little better than it is currently.
Yeah, also, just so you know, standing in water will cool you off a little. I think it's like 5 degrees.
Okay. Well, just for you Fahrenheit folks out there, that 5 degrees, I mean, the 7 degrees Celsius at night is about 45 degrees Fahrenheit. And that might seem warm enough, but when you're talking about being completely exposed to the elements, 45 degrees is cold enough to get you hypothermia pretty quickly if you're not careful about it or if you don't stay active. So if you're running around at night with a bunch of metal armor on that's sucking your heat away even faster, that's a quick road to some serious issues. Oh, spider. Flying spider.
Yeah, so if you're actually out of direct sun and standing in water, it'll move that 65 down to about 55 C. It's still very warm, but not quite as warm.
So there you go, guys. That's in Fahrenheit, 131 degrees in the water in the shade. Now, if you've ever been in a hot tub, the highest heat recommended safely in your average hot tub is about 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, that's pretty warm at 131, and that's where you're going to cool off. All right, Iskandar, thank you very much for joining me, sharing your thoughts on the pack and some of the ways that things have evolved as you've been going through it. It's always interesting to hear how you start with one idea in mind, and it was a really good idea. And then over time, things have evolved to get even more complicated and have more fun aspects coming down the line, like all of the exploration and the fact that there's this endgame area 7,000 blocks away from where you start.
Yeah, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I now actually have the ending of this pack, so it took me a while to figure out how I'll land it, but I now actually do know how I'm going to do so, and it should be a lot of fun.
Okay, cool. Do you have any sort of ETA? I'm sure people are going to be asking me this in the comments below.
Maybe like 115 or 116. Actually, the pack will probably go from beta to release at that point, so
okay.
We're talking about a month maybe at this point.
Yeah, so don't get too ahead of yourselves there, folks. We are not going to be exploring thousands of kilometers away anytime soon. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. Hope you've enjoyed this little mini interview and the tiny build that I got to do in between. And we'll see you next time.